So, can I start off with a big question? It's a question that everyone's asking me at the moment, which is what's going on with Gen Z and religion? We're hearing a lot about this generation being less likely to be atheists than previous generations, more spiritual openness, and hopefully even more openness towards the Bible. Like, what are you guys seeing, and what do you think's behind that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been surveys that have been done in a recent, year showing how there's like 62% of Gen Z are more likely to be spiritually open rather than calling themselves atheists. And, there's this spiritual curiosity, and I think that's in part because there's this digital accessibility that we have, and everyone, like the whole of Gen Z is on social media, and there's cultural influences that are shifting, and that's having a huge impact on the way that we view religion and like faith in general. I mean, for example, a big time writer, Sally Rooney, in a recent interview when she was asked like what would you recommend, like what's an underrated book, she pointed towards the Gospels. And most of all, like, public figures also on social media are being more open about their faith, and I think that's tapping into something for Gen Z where they're like, well, people that I'm looking up to are curious and open about sharing about Jesus and walking out faith. Why is that? Why are they doing that? And does that have an impact on me? Like, how have I never thought about Christianity? How have I never thought about faith? And I think there's this, like, I don't know, temperature that Gen Z are kind of like setting amongst culture right now that, there is a God. There clearly is something higher and bigger above us that is, something that we can't really put words to, and they're curious about it. And it's great that, us as a way get to kind of facilitate a space where they can come and come with their questions and kind of find that, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
Gen Z are curious, and it's so cool.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm seeing a lot, especially around young men, is I think they're looking for answers, they're looking for hope, and I think they're
Mm.
also looking for structure. And what's really interesting that some of the stats that you guys have released around young men, especially coming into church, is that a lot of them are not particularly going to kind of your charismatic church that has modern worship songs and modern preaching and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
actually going to more, some would say more conservative, more traditional styles of church. And I feel like actually one of the things that I'm seeing a lot is young guys that maybe in the last kind of 10 years have been seeing a lot stuff online about getting fit, getting healthy. And so maybe they're following a bunch of gym TikTokers and people, and they're looking for structure in their life when it comes to that. But what actually is really interesting, I think, is that they realize that like being healthy is great and being fit is amazing, but actually that doesn't give you hope. And I think something that I find, even conversations with my school friends who are in their late 20s, they're not even in like the Gen Z category, but they're finding amazing structure in church and finding hope in church. And that's something that even the gym doesn't give you. So I think it's really interesting seeing a lot of guys heading into churches, especially more traditional churches, where they actually can see a lot of structure and they know what they're going to get. I think as as churches, what are we offering to young people in terms of structure in their lives when maybe actually in the world there isn't much structure?